This proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back.
Part of me is very happy because finally this brutal war is coming to an end. The hostages will be returned, the Israeli hostages. The people in Gaza will be relieved from the horrors of the war that has been going on. Hamas is obviously defeated to the point that they had to finally accept to a ceasefire deal. And also, I am excited to see the United States coming back to the Middle East with its heavy weight and being involved on that level as a partner, not just as someone watching from outside or trying to run things from outside the region, but now they are doing it from inside the region. So these are good things that are making me happy about this deal. But at the same time, I remember what happened in the past ceasefire deal in Gaza. It didn't take too long until it fell apart, and we ended up with having an even more complicated situation. Of course, there are no guarantees. First of all, I have zero faith or zero trust in Hamas. I believe this will somehow make it possible for this deal to move forward in a more appropriate way than the previous ceasefire deal we have seen before. And this is, by the way, the easiest step, because this is mainly about, oh, stop the war, release the hostages, exchange prisoners, that's it. This is the easiest part. The most difficult part is the other 19 points on the plan. Until this moment, Hamas did not say very clearly that they will disarm. All they said is that we will not attack. We will try to be part of the new technocratic government that will be formed to rule Gaza. But they did not say that we will withdraw from the political arena or from the jihad and from the violent activities, or stop the violent activity. They will not disarm under any condition or any pressure. I cannot even picture it like Hamas going and handing their weapons, because this means their end. Sadly, I don't think this type of attacks on in Western countries by radical Islamists or radicals in general will stop anytime soon. They got their momentum, and they are already building up on it. And the problem is not anymore, I mean, the threat to Western countries is not anymore an outside threat. It has become domestic threat. The threat is coming from inside the UK. The threat to the UK is coming from inside the UK. The threat to the US security is coming from inside the US. Yes, they are using a language and rhetoric of foreign entities and foreign groups and foreign radicals, but actually they exist and operate inside these Western countries. So the attack on the West will continue. The attack on Western values and Western principles and Western way of life will continue in different forms, either by violence or even through non-violent means, as we see in political arenas.
Learning from the Lebanon experience, I think that this would be the end of the war. Israel will not concede half of the Gaza Strip. And Israel will eventually probably police Hamas to make sure that it doesn't rebound like it wants to. Does this mean peace? Does this mean the end of war? Does this mean the end of Hamas? I'd say no to all these three questions. So the arms part, this is exactly the way that Hezbollah has been behaving. What they're offering now is that they're saying we are willing to freeze our arms and freeze our activity and take a break, but we're not willing to give this up for good. From what we see, we have Qatar and Turkey, the main sponsors of Hamas, and Egypt on board. And the other Arab countries express support. Of course, they want the war to end, but their vision is not there and their presence is not there. Had we had a bigger Arab coalition, a wider one, uh, insisting that Hamas should surrender its arms as a reset button for peace to take place and for Gaza to be reconstructed, then results would have been different. If you look at Hezbollah, Hezbollah has conceded 5 strategic hilltops in Lebanon, and they're not organizing any what they call resistance. They're not organizing any violent attacks on these hilltops. Do I think this will stay like this forever? No. But at this point, they think that they're too weak. They think that they need to reorganize. But I'm certain that in the future, they will resume what they call resistance and they will resume violence. The same applies to Hamas. Hamas has lost, if we go by the plan that's been announced, they've lost 47% of the Gaza Strip. And I don't think they will organize any violent attacks on the Israelis. But this is only for now. I think in the future, they will come back.
Beyond the euphoria that everyone is kind of absolutely delighted here that the 2 years, this cloud that's been hanging over the whole country is imminently going to break and result in the release of all the hostages. There is still a but that a lot of people, until one sees it with one's own eyes, will only believe it that it's really happening then. So before we even get to stage 2, let's see the successful completion of stage 1. And there is some residual concern that especially amongst the 28 deceased hostages, that it's perhaps not all the bodies are immediately retrievable, and so that will leave some of the issues of the first stage kind of overhanging. With regard to the second stage, I think just like the whole deal in its totality is reliant on President Trump and the amount of both personal political capital that he is placing on the deal and the mechanisms that he's put in place of American enforcement. So the big issue in part 2 will be the disengagement of weapons. Interesting, they're using similar terminology from Northern Ireland of the decommissioning of weapons. And that will have to be done under the auspice of American leadership by Central Command and, as I said, by the regional partners as well. There is no doubt that the motivation amongst Hamas and their supporters, as they've said on record, to carry out October the 7th again and again and again, similar attacks, is a real fear. This is why it needs, as I said before, the American involvement, insistence that the disarming happens, that no smuggling of weapons can happen, that there are no more weapons factories that are able to develop IEDs and explosives, etc. And then the fundamental future stage, when we talk about the future governance of Gaza, that it will come under a regime which is de-radicalization as its top priority, that we stop the preaching of hate and the incitement and anti-Semitic chants of murder. And only then in de-radicalization will we see generationally an ability for potentially peace partners to develop.